And for me in particular, like I went through 15 years worth of churches, and no one picked up that I had these things.
Mm-hmm.
Like I got told, "Oh, Damien, you're being rebellious. You're walking in a spirit of rebellion."
Right.
All this stuff. No one
Because the
actually
book
picked it.
has all the answers, or so they think. So
Yes, or reading the book make you think you have the answers.
right,
But
between the book and the Holy Spirit and prayer, you should have all the answers you need. So
bingo,
science and medicine, psychology, if the book doesn't give you that and the Holy Spirit didn't give you that, you're never going to get it.
Correct. And if it's not in the book, it doesn't exist, or it's not real, or it's like worldly wisdom. It's not, godly wisdom.
Yeah.
So basically what I then realized was, hold on, I was living someone else's faith. And so if my faith is genuine, I have to find it for myself. I have to be convinced of it myself. And so I then said to myself, well, look, if God is as loving as what I'm told he is, if God has given me these rational faculties, if God has given us like free will and the ability to understand the world and the ability to process information and all that, and if God truly is a God of love and compassion, then God will let me use my rational faculties to discover if he exists or not.
Mm-hmm.
And that was when I started questioning everything. So up until that time, I'd been in the worship team. I'd been a worship leader. I'd been doing Bible studies. I did street preaching. I used to have a blog as well. So I was familiar with the Christian side of the argument. But what I realized was that I wasn't familiar with the atheist side of the argument. So what I did was I allowed myself to finally read all the atheist material that I'd been denying myself for all these years. Because what would atheists know?
Did you know properly what an atheist was when you were a Christian?
Someone who either hates God or doesn't know what God is.
Correct. That is the Christian answer for the definition of what is an atheist. Not all of them, but oftentimes when you are one, before you deconverted, that's what you think an atheist was, and then you
correct.
learn that is incorrect.
Because you're almost trained to assume that you have the truth, and anyone who doesn't have the truth is a blithering idiot.
Or hates God.
Or hates God. Or I read somewhere an atheist is someone who hates God for not existing. Okay, what?
I haven't heard that one, but that's funny.
No, okay, I got that one.
Would you say that you were like fishing for what felt right while you were doing this religious journey that you were on, as opposed to what made the most sense? That is to say,
no, because I come to realize that my feelings and what I thought about reality could be completely skewed by what's in my head. If I came to believe that demons were causing particular issues, or if I came to believe that that tapping on a window 15 times was able to stop my parents arguing, then that meant that my interpretation of reality isn't as good as what I think it is. So I had to realize, well, hold on, what is a good independent way of interpreting reality or of knowing things about reality? And this is where the scientific method comes in, where, you have a hypothesis. You then have to test that hypothesis against various data. You then have to positively build a case. You can't just build the negative case that, and actually it's funny I mentioned that because I've been on Twitter this morning arguing about the supernatural. And if you think about it, the definition of the supernatural is just what the natural hasn't explained yet.
This is Caleb's favorite thing.
Oh, heck. There you go.
Yeah,
I'm sure him and I will be peas in a pod.
No, I'm sorry. He's being ironic. I hate the word supernatural. To me, it's a meaningless word. It's just a placeholder for, we don't know, but we'll name it when we have an idea what it is.
Well, I think supernatural is a placeholder for a set of ideas that seem to give explanation to things that can't be rationally understood by the person trying to do the understanding. And to me, it's an argument from incredulity. Well, hold on. I don't understand why people in Victorian era London are getting cholera. It must be supernatural. That was until John Snow in, I think, 1850 something finally worked out what epidemiology was. And then we realized, hold on, cholera isn't spiritual. It's because, it's because of a contaminated water supply. If we look back at earthquakes and volcanoes, or if we even look back at like epilepsy or obsessive compulsive disorder or any of those other mental health issues or schizophrenia, if this were 500 years ago, like people like me would be on the scrap heap, dying at early ages because, we didn't know what those things were.
Yeah. And I think that, and I'll let you get back to the end of your deconversion in a moment, but I think that organized religion as we know it today has compounded this, because there's still people who believe in the supernatural. But one of the things that the modern religions have done, now that we have Bibles and Qurans and these different holy books that tell us, or supposedly tell us, the past, present, and future, they think that they know, despite all the science that we have for what actually causes these things, people who are raised in these religions and never look outside them can easily come to believe that this person is possessed. It says right here, during end times, people will be doing this and there will be wars and rumors of war. And so that every time they see something, they will interpret it as a sign or, even if the scientific explanation exists, they will still choose to interpret it via the supernatural, making the supernatural connection. Because
but I really want to emphasize, though, that the thing that really sets me off about the supernatural is that it's supposed to imply that there is some real distinction between whatever the hell it is we're attempting to talk about and nature itself. Like there's a difference there, which is irreconcilable. They are incompatible. They are not the same thing. And nobody can explain what that means to not be the same thing unless they're talking about an idea. But even ideas unto themselves don't actually exist. So we're not talking about an actually existent thing. Supernatural things are proposed to actually exist in some way, but be distinct from the natural order. And that to me is really the crux of it, because we're talking about, like, to me, saying that epilepsy is demons, even if that were the case, I don't think that's supernatural. That is part of the natural order. There's nothing there that isn't happening outside of reality or within the bounds of nature. It's still a part of nature. So the word, to me, like I said, it doesn't actually do anything other than say, well, I don't know, but we're gonna name it when we have an idea of what it might be. Yeah, and I think that's because for you, K-lub, you define natural as that which exists, right? The world or existence as we know it is natural, and so if you're defining it in that way, the idea of something supernatural doesn't make any sense because there is only the natural. Yeah, I don't see how something could exist that's distinct from reality itself. That is to say that there's two categories. There's reality and there's this other thing that's also a reality but distinct from reality.
Well, this thing that affects reality but can't seem to be defined.
Like transcendental. I can agree with words like that. I like that. I'm fine with words like that. Paranormal, even. I'm okay with paranormal. I like that. I used to be a paranormal investigator. That was part of my deconversion process. So I was all about that. But anyway, just I'm done with my supernatural rant. That's it. And what's interesting is all of the questions that you just asked toward the end. What is a god? How would I recognize a demon? How is this thing existing? Where would the god have come from? Why would it interact with me in this way versus directly?
What is prayer? And this is the thing, like, is prayer just a concept? Is prayer like a physical thing that emanates from your body and rises up in golden bowls up to the throne of heaven? What is the throne of heaven? Where is it? What does it do? What is up there?
And these are the type of questions I think that most people don't start asking until they're finding their way out of the religion.
Yeah, but the problem is, like, it's that cognitive dissonance that keeps people in. Like, if people are how can I say, told or trained or indoctrinated to believe that this way is the right way, and any doubt or any guilt or any hesitation is because of either your sinful nature or because
you're weak in faith,
or you're weak in faith, or Satan is trying to get his hooks into you, which is a very common one I heard in, and this is the thing, what is a God? What is a Satan? And when I realized, one of the questions that kind of made me realize that I thought about this all wrong was, I asked myself, in the Bible, how many people has God killed?
Yeah, I know where you're going with this. But
how many people has Satan killed?
I think he killed like 5, right?
Well, it depends. Anywhere between 5 and 50. But then I ask the question, I compare the numbers and I work out, well, hold on, how is God still the good guy of the story?
Now, the Christian would argue, well, God gave all life, so he is the giver and taker of life. So he has the authority to kill, and Satan doesn't. Therefore,
even though God gave permission to Satan to kill the people that Satan
that's
killed.
True. So that argument doesn't work. I didn't think about that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So after a while, I just realized, well, hold on. The most minimalist view of the world is naturalism. And what we can discover about it, what we can understand about it, what we can manipulate about it. Like, if you can't, I suppose I'm being like a Hume naturalist here, but if you can't, I think Aaron Ra said it best: if you can't show it, you don't know it.
Yeah,
and I think it's a very, very simple way. And I think Carl Sagan said that, like, ordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. Ordinary claims require ordinary evidence. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. And so, and like this whole thing about, well, let's say I got bitten by a dog. If I say to one person I got bitten by a dog, and another person I got taken away by a UFO, in which one am I lying?
Yeah, or which one demands which one is the more extraordinary claim, therefore demanding the more extraordinary evidence.
Correct. And so, but basically, I went off what I refer to as the null hypothesis. All gods are false until the positive claim that at least one of them exists, can be verified. And I eventually realized that none of them can be verified.
Yeah. And
furthermore, all the evidence to support the claims of the existence of these gods falls apart under scrutiny. At best, it leads to deism. But what is deism? Or it's just a bunch of logical fallacies strung together. Like, for example, the Kalam. If you look at the Kalam cosmological argument,
have you been watching this show? Have you watched the show?
I've done a little bit, yes.
Okay.
Especially when our fearless leader, Emperor Josh, said, jump on and I better find out what these guys are about. And yeah.
Yeah.